We'll start, though, of course, by talking about England's 1-1 draw against Italy. At this stage, is it less about the result and more about the performance and the evolution of the England squad, do you think?
Yeah, it's always you want to be getting good performances at this present moment. But, look, maybe I'm probably a tad old-fashioned, but results are always important. Even international, you know, you want good results. But at this stage, if you were a manager looking at it now, I'll be looking for the performance. Are they looking to play? Because obviously I would have had the week, and especially with Gareth Southgate, you'd be planning ahead for this tournament. Players now, you want to play well because you want to be on that plane to go to a World Cup. But as a manager, you'll be looking through the week, who's fitting into their plans? Are they getting really what I'm trying to coach? What I want the game to look like? How I want us to play? That's why it's very important at these stages. But I would look at it now, especially the next camp, you want to start cranking it up. You want to start then the tempo so it becomes more realistic. So when you come into a tournament, it doesn't catch you by surprise.
Do you think that we're seeing that? We're seeing the sort of pattern of play that Southgate wants to play and that the players understand it?
Yeah, I think you can tell they've been working on the training pitch. I like the three at the back. I like the flexibility it gives them ahead, whereas you can play one holding and two ahead, which he's done, and then one behind one. You could do it where you have two holding players against better opposition, you know, and then you could play three or ahead of them, like a 3-4-3 if you were. So I'm not sure he's completely set on what he's going to do ahead of the three and the wing-backs, but he's definitely going to play the three. It looks that way. And I like it because also the fact is we're controlling the tempo to play more. I think, although we got caught out a couple of times, I like to see them trying to play out. I hope they have the same courage come tournament time and don't go percentages a little bit because we're under pressure. I don't think this group will because they are young. And he knows a lot of them, doesn't he? Yeah. And that's why he's put them in there. And actually, most of them don't have that burden of going to the tournament with previous failures. Yeah. And that does become difficult.
And also the pressure as well. You know, a lot of players won't be... Because I'd tell you what I've liked as well, the England fans have got behind it. They see look what's trying... He's not just building for this tournament, he's building for the next couple of tournaments. He's trying to build a team here to go on and win a tournament. So they understand it. What I like, you know, even just looking at the formation as well, what was interesting tonight was obviously he goes free at the back and he wants to play. And I believe in a tournament, they will look to play out from the back because what you can do, especially with young players, because you're given a responsibility, they'll take it. But also, if you make a mistake, it's my fault. I'm the one asking to play this way. So don't worry about it. And even if you do make a mistake, I'll take responsibility. You carry on, you go and do it again. So I can see Gareth Southgate giving that information. But also what I liked as well today was, you know, they sort of went to a diamond because they put Sterling in behind. So then obviously you got a defensive midfielder, diamond there. But the only problem, like I love Trips, you know, I was with him at Man City. His willingness, you know, his willingness to get up and down is brilliant. But I want that pace because I'd want to turn that wing back because what will happen if they haven't got that speed, it can turn into a 5 and you don't really want it turning into a 5. If you can get the wing backs, you know, I think Rose will come strong towards the end of the season. Hopefully he gets more game time. What I believe is an outstanding, especially wing backs made for him. Walker there as well, and I know he done well today. But those two, then they can turn into wingers as well. So your options then with the ball, and also because you're able to press from there, you'll dictate the tempo of the game. And that's why I'm quite excited about this England team. And look, and I'm a Welshman,
really?
and I find it difficult on these programmes. You have me talking about England all the time, but actually for the
I'm looking at they qualify.
Yeah,
that's it.
Of course.
Well, also it's a impartial view, isn't it? You know, you see it from that's not a fan, but like you see it from a view where you don't have any agenda. You know, it's always I sometimes think about when I'm talking about England. You know, am I trying to see more than is there? I think at the moment there is progression, and what we are seeing is definitely there. Young players, confident, look like they can play in a system where you get flexibility. So whether you play Sterling behind or Rashford off the left or Dele Alli, or you know, you've got lots of options. I think the ultimate test will be the back three or the back five when you play against the best players in the world, because we are inexperienced at the back. And we failed at tournaments with probably the best back four we ever had. Yeah. So and you will get games in the latter stage of the tournament where they will test you. I don't worry about the other end of the pitch.
We've seen, though, in international tournaments, particularly the more recent of them, very organised teams who know what they're about are the ones, actually, that are causing the surprises. They're the ones that are achieving more than perhaps the collective sum of their parts. Even if you look at Wales and Northern Ireland and how they performed in the Euros, it's not necessarily the teams with Iceland, then, who...
Well, I believe that's football pretty much all over. Because if you look at City, although they play flamboyant football that's great to watch, that is worked on. Where they move, who goes in where, the rotation of positions, the courage to pass out, they practice it. You know, that, although they don't set up to be solid, they still work damn hard at what they're doing and organise the team. You know, they press as good as anyone when they lose the ball, don't they?
His teams always have pressed the best.
Yeah.
But as soon as they lose it, they press in numbers and they press high. So then usually the best time to win the ball is as soon as you've just lost it, really, because then the other team are not prepared. They've not got anything planned. So as soon as then it might come as a surprise as he's won the ball, and then if you go and press and you press in numbers, he'd end up probably then just turning it, giving it away, and also then that's what you want because defenders and defensive midfielder just eat up the possession then, and you keep the tempo with the game. So you're basically in a good position then to collect first, second balls, and then you're on the attack. You can sustain the attack.
But our players in the England squad generally are from clubs that play. If you think of Tottenham, generally, press. Liverpool, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Lallana. City, press. Sterling's doing it with Guardiola. So it makes sense for Southgate to play high energy.
Yeah.
So obviously you have to adapt depending on who your opposition is, but we've got to have the legs in the team to be able to do it. And I think we've got great legs in the team.
Yeah, I agree.
Obviously, there are still a few decisions still to be made. Harry Kane is yet to come back from injury. When he does come back, he's one of maybe a handful of players that will be an absolute shoo-in for the England squad. Of course, Gareth Southgate is going to play him. But who does he play with him? How does that work, particularly given how well Sterling and Lingard played in this evening's match?
Well, if you take away too much detailed formation analysis behind it, I think, who's your best player? Kane. If he's fit, play him in a role that he plays for his club. If you play two up top, so say you played him and Vardy up, and I really like Vardy, by the way, so not about him.
Yeah.
Then you're giving Kane something new. I would play him up top on his own, and whether you play... Because Tottenham change what they do behind him. Sometimes Dele Alli plays behind him, sometimes he plays off the left. You know, they mix it up because they're good players. But I would leave him up there on his own. I wouldn't play two strikers. You know, even like tonight, wasn't it? Sterling, like you said, he dropped in.
He drops in, and what they do, they turn into a 2 when they don't have the ball, so their press is a 2. So it'd be like a 3-5-2 when they're out of possession. But as soon as they're in possession, then he drops in, then he creates... And I completely agree with yourself. He needs to play up front in his own. He's used to it. He works the line very well. He's great at using that area. He can keep 2 defenders occupied or sometimes 3. But I think what you're trying to get to is who's going to play with him or who's going to play behind him. Sterling can do that job. Sterling's an outstanding player. And I remember even a few years ago when he was at Liverpool, he was playing as part of the diamond. He was, you know, and for a young player, he was actually really intelligent because a lot of young players you see playing in those positions, usually experienced players because they see the game differently and they play side on. Young players usually come to the ball too square. You've got to be a very talented player to play that position, and I believe Sterling can. Dele Alli does struggle in that position, but where Dele Alli's at his best is breaking lines, is making a run off Kane, so getting himself into the box. And the problem he's had this season, I think he's got too caught up and trying to be a link player and trying to get involved in areas where, look, he's a good footballer, of course he is, but he isn't that level of footballer, like Eriksen's type of footballers. He's at his best when he's breaking lines, getting into the box, scoring goals. That's where he's at his best, when he's joining in with Kane. So I think that's going to be... Look, particularly
because he plays his club football with Harry Kane, and when you talk about the familiarity, and yet he hasn't had a great season, Dele Alli.
He hasn't, and I'd look at Kane and say, well, if Kane has Kane's an outstanding goal scorer. Actually, I'm probably doing him disservice there. He's an outstanding footballer. You know, he's a brilliant footballer. Yeah. So if he's comfortable with Dele Alli in behind him, me personally, I would want him as comfortable as possible. Familiar.
Would you talk to him about it?
Yeah, I'd speak to because he's an important player, especially to what I would look to be doing. If you're going to win a tournament or if you're going to do well in the tournament, you need him scoring goals. I would want to see where he's comfortable, what he finds, who he likes playing with, and then I would come to my own conclusion and go with who I feel's best. But I would definitely take his advice on it.
I mean, he could play Dele Alli and Sterling either side of him as a 3. I mean, what he did tonight, he played Lingard in a more, if you set it up on paper, it looks like a midfield position, and Ox either side ahead of Dyer. But Lingard actually very clever at making runs from deep as well, a bit like Dele Alli.
Yeah.
And you could argue this season, although I think Dele Alli is a super talent, and I'd probably just edge him in the team somehow because of his link with Kane. Lingard would be close for me as well because he's such an intelligent player. He scores big goals. You know, there's a lot of big games for United. He pops up with goals. He's adding that extra dimension to his final third because there was question marks about him less than a year back. And he's showing a real kind of confidence on the ball. And it's great problems for Gareth. I think the middle of the park is going to be crucial in terms of how he sets it up and who he puts in there, because Craig and I were talking earlier about when packed defences, teams you're dominating, who can open a team up from deep from there. There's not many, is there? There's not many. Jack's probably the only one who's been in the squad. I'm surprised Shelvey hasn't had more of a go because he can do it. What do you think the argument against is? Shelvey's probably a little bit of discipline and athleticism, to be honest.
Shelvey's he's a player that if you're dominating, say, for instance, you're playing one of the weaker teams and you're going to have plenty of the ball, he would definitely interest me. Yeah. He'd definitely be an option for me then. My concern, if you're playing against the better teams where you might not have as much of the ball as you would like, then he wouldn't be an option for me. He doesn't have the discipline, and I know when I say discipline with John Joe, it's people think obviously red cards. I'm talking about tactically, his defensive discipline for the team to do a job for the team isn't his strong point. And in a central pack, in a central midfield, as you'll know yourself, it's so important that obviously it's great if you're good with the ball, brilliant, but you have to be just as good without the ball as you are with it.
I think that's why Henderson will start.
Yeah.
Because of his discipline, athleticism, spotting danger, doing a job.
Yeah.
You need one in there. If you're going to play that way with the others, because Ox likes to fly, Lingard likes to fly, Jack will go.
So Wilshere coming in, or if John Joe Shelvey, if it looks unlikely that it's going to be him, but that type of player, what would
we
that
haven't
give?
got that type.
Right. But what would you be looking for from that type of player? What would they give England that they lack at the moment?
Well, ideally, you'd want Jordan Henderson's athletic ability and his discipline, his professionalism, his leadership qualities, and
his defensibility of Dyer.
Okay.
Yeah, but you'd want John Joe Shelvey's passing range, or Carrick's, or whoever, you want that mix of a player. But they're few and far between. I think I'm surprised and disappointed, really, after seeing the lad at Tottenham, Winks, earlier in the season. He was terrific. He had some unbelievable performances in big games. And somehow, I know he had an injury and didn't quite come back the same, but he had a good mix in his game of being able to spray it about and, get stuck in as well. So it's a shame maybe he's probably not going to make it. But I think the middle of the pitch there's still shirts for grabs. And Jack is the one, really. If he can play the next 7-8 games for Arsenal, I think he'll start the first game.
See, I don't.
Do you not think?
No, I don't. I would be reluctant to go with him. His injuries would concern me, especially with World Cup. But also just generally, he's a player, and I've been so impressed with him coming back this year because of the injuries he's had. It continuously happens to him. But to me, shows what type of person he is, what type of attitude he has to keep coming back. So great credit to him. But as a player, I believe he's at his best when he's looking to go by in just quick 1-2s. But without the ball, he leaves you weak, especially in the centre of the park, especially if you're going to play against the likes of Brazil and all those type of teams and you're going to look to advance in the tournament, he's going to leave you, you're going to struggle without the ball with Jack. You're going to carry him at times and you can't afford to carry him. England don't have those type of players where, at that level you can carry players. And also, I'm looking from a defence. I thought some of their best balls between the lines today were from defenders, which is great. Don't get me wrong. Outstanding ball. But you want your central, you want your midfielder, your deep line midfielder who can link in with the back three. He's basically the one to get him out, and he's the one then looking to break the lines, looking to play into you're attacking midfielder or break lines either way. And look, I like Dyer, I'm a big fan of him, but he just doesn't quite have that range, doesn't quite have that cleverness.
One of the other positions that, of course, is going to be up for grabs is the goalkeeper. That seems to be maybe the most unsettled as things stand at the moment. Do you think that Butland will feel... I mean, he had a penalty to face, and it was a really well-taken penalty.
Was.
He didn't have much chance. Went the right way. Wasn't too far away from it, but it didn't get a chance to save it. Did he have enough to do during the game to feel that he really could stake his claim for a place?
Not really. I think they have... I mean, Pickford's obviously very, very good with his feet.
Yeah.
And that's credit to him. You know, he's natural with it and he can spray it about everywhere, and we want to play out. So, you know, people are talking about him being number one because of that. I would go for Butland because I like goalkeepers to be a goalkeeper first. I love his presence. You know, he comes for stuff. You could isolate both of them this season and say they've made errors. You know, there's a lot of goals just gone in and you could say, well, you could have done better. But I think, and partly what I've a couple of friends of mine who've worked with Butland who rave about him, and for me, a goalkeeper, they're both quality and they're both potentially very good, but he's just got that presence. And I like a goalkeeper personally because I'm not the best in the air as well, but I used to love a big goalie who can just dominate and come for things, control things, and I think he's better at that than Pickford. But Pickford is better with his feet, so it depends which way he goes. I mean, there's 8 games left. Let them fight it out.
Let's take a look then at what you've picked as your England squad as things stand at the moment. You're 23 to go off to Russia with England. I mean, in terms of the goalkeepers then, given that that's what we were talking about, you've gone for Pickford and Butland, but your third choice is Joe Hart. Is he there to play, or is he there for experience and advice for the younger and less experienced keepers?
Well, I think if... The experience he would offer is fantastic, and he seems like the type of lad. Bella's know him better than me, but everyone says he's good pro, and he will be there and help. He won't sulk. And actually, if one of them started, the young lads, and struggled, would you then put the other young lad in? You know, the inexperienced, or would you go for the experience? So I would take him personally. The rest of the squad really is there's not a great deal of experience, but there's so much pace, attacking threat. I think it looks okay. I mean, Gareth is not going to pick certain players, even if Bella's or I decide that we think they should be in. There's some players you know he's not going to pick. But I think
you've put Smalling in, and he's a player that Gareth Southgate was...
I just think with Smalling, when you look at the... Well, it was Bella's fault. He was telling me he was talking about the back three being a little bit inexperienced, and he's right. And I thought Smalling, although he's not everyone's cup of tea, he's quick, he's been there before, he plays United, put under pressure, big pressure, played a lot of games. It's not going to faze him. At least have him there. That's what I think.
And the goalkeeper one, and we'll come to the rest of the squad as well, but the goalkeeper one, just to get your thoughts on it, Craig, is an interesting one because it tends to be ex-professionals who say you need to have that experience in there, whereas supporters will look and say, Joe Hart's not really playing for West Ham. He's not had particularly successful tournaments with England when he has been away with them. He's a goalkeeper who has made mistakes, and they don't... From a supporter's point of view, a lot of people can't understand the value of having Joe Hart there. So why is there this difference between what ex-professionals think and what supporters think?
I don't know him, though.
Yeah, I like even when... Don't forget, Joe was playing very young as well. He broke into Manchester City's team young. And I remember when I went there as well, we brought in Shay Given and Joe went on loan. But what I liked about Joe as well is being a young goalkeeper, mistakes never fazed him. You know, from a young age, he could bounce back very, very quick. And then you know straight away he's going to be a top-class keeper because he has all the attributes to be a very good goalkeeper. And then, like I said, you know, earlier on the show, I can see him building for the next couple of tournaments. So I would take Joe out of it. I don't believe he's going to start. But I would take his experience, his training, his being involved in tournaments, because those two, you know, are quite new to it. I know Butland has, but Pickford, I believe he's going to start with Pickford. That's his mark, and I could be, look, and I don't know the inside. For me, on the outside looking in,
from what he said and how he's talked about him.
And just playing him the first game as well against Holland, the way he wants to play out from the back, and even today as well. And I know we want our goalkeepers to be goalkeepers, and of course we do. You know, but maybe I'm not the best person to ask, because I expect him to come up for crosses. I expect him to make saves. So I'm very harsh on goalkeepers.
Well, that's where Pickford struggled a bit.
Yes, and he hasn't.
But a lot of goals gone in close to him and high, and he struggled a bit up here. He's fine down here, and his feet are brilliant.
Yeah, but I believe he's going to get better with time.
Yeah, well, they're both good.
I believe he's going to be your one in the next few years. That will be the number one who will go on and kick. If he keeps progressing the way he has been. But as for playing, even today, I was, there's a few times battling that. There was a couple of times he could have gone and played just a simple ball, then he's gone and give it away. And I know just from me being involved in managing, I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't like it if it's on, give him the ball. So those little moments where I think Pickford at times as well. Look, the goalkeeping has changed. It has changed. We've had some incredible goalkeepers, over the last few years. With Neuer, what he was able to do and what he's still doing, changed really the perception of goalkeepers. Obviously, with Guardiola, what he looks for, but when Edison then comes into this country, and he is now, you've just, like, I even caught myself today, even at the training ground, watching videos of him, just watching his clips, watching his, and this is where we're going now. As a goalkeeper, it's not just what you can do with your hands and obviously your decision makings, and you have to be very good with your feet. You have to be an extension of the team, so you're an extra player.
And sweeping quicker and stronger now.
Yeah,
they all look physically really good now. The keepers, they're working on the speed, because Lloris is probably one of the best at it. I think at Tottenham. He's always there first. Those long balls over. That's why Tottenham can play a high line, because he comes up with them. And you're right, it's changed. It really has changed.
Even because my first experience of it was really with Pepe Reina. But then watching him training, he actually trained with us. He done his little bits in goals separate, but actually in keep ball sessions he was very good, very good. And I remember even playing one game, I was, up against a Welsh colleague playing for the opposition. He was like, he's just an extra player, and that's what it felt like. You could just go into him at angles, and then he'd go out and play out the other way. You were using him like a sweeper, and he was such a big help for the team. And actually, even my concept of goalkeeping then was, that's the type of goalkeeper I want. And in Spain, we're producing a lot of them at that time, and you can see why, a lot of the success of what they had, which will come on later on in the show, with teams dominating over the last few years, and have really been, obviously, with the Spanish goalkeepers, because a lot of them can play, they're extra players.
England, though, still developing, and interestingly, Italy and various people within the Italian squad have been saying they need, I think it was Bonucci was saying that Italy need to do what England have done, which is have this success throughout the unders groups, and then get those young players playing for the national team. Gareth Southgate's been talking this week about Germany taking a very young squad to the Confederations Cup, not with the expectation that they would win it, but with the room to make mistakes, the room to develop and evolve. Will England have that opportunity? Because it's not just this group of players, there's a whole group of trophy-winning youngsters that are coming through as well.
I think the advantage of having Gareth in charge is that he believes in that system.
Yeah. He's come through it himself any of the last few years coaching.
Yeah, and we've had success. Although the pool of players is getting smaller, we're still having success because the coaching's better, and the pathway through now to the England squad is coming through the youth of England and the 21s. Whereas, even when I played 21s, a lot of lads did go on and play, but it was so separate, really. It wasn't really
a path.
No, it was just a stepping stone, but without the
bridge.
The communication wasn't like it is now. Occasionally you might travel together, depending, but not all the time. It felt a bit like that. They were distant. Now you can see it. Yeah. Gareth wants it to flow. Yeah. And he knows the way it works. I don't think there's a guarantee with anything you do with the youth of. This helps, but there's no guarantee to get the first team winning trophies at international tournaments, because there's only one every 2 years, isn't there? And you need a bit of luck in terms of keep getting your best players fit, like Kane, for example. But I certainly think now we're looking like our process is much healthier than it was before.
Yeah, I like the way, and I've said it for a few years now, I like the direction England have been going, with the development of St George's Park as well. But just all the coaches get to see what goes on from the top level all the way down to the bottom, and the bottom all the way up to the top. The communication levels between them all. They have a lot of meetings, so they're all planning, they're all aware of which players are coming through, where they need to strengthen in certain areas to develop certain players. For, listen, we still you have to rely on your clubs. Your clubs make your players, really. You can give them the international experience to help their development and make them better with you for a certain period. But the clubs, you know, certainly, you know, we rely on them just for our country as Wales, because we looked at it from, you know, a period of not having success, but we were fully aware we had a young team coming through. They're just the numbers. We had an under-21 team who got beat in the playoffs, and it was not like us because we haven't been producing. We have one or twos, and then maybe another age group with a couple of boys here and there, but we had 8, 9 boys coming through together. So we went through a stage of where we just sacrificed, cut it off. These boys were coming through. Get them the experience now. It wasn't a great experience for them because it wasn't a good learning curve at that present time because they were losing games at a regular basis. But in the long run, this group of players will go on. So then we develop Dragon Park. So then the coaches then get together. It's still loads more needs to be done. But we've got somewhere, we've got an identity, if you understand what I mean, where young players were fully aware if he does well at the under-17s or under-19s, he's going to get the opportunity to come into the first team. Even before the Euros, we had basically your Ampadu's and 4 or 5 boys didn't go to the Euros, but they went and trained leading up to it. So some of your friendlies, they were around your Gareth Bales, around those type of players. And that's what I see England doing as well. You know, they're not just the senior boys, they're all involved and they're all going the same way. So if you've just won the under-17s tournament, World Cup, you've won the under-20 tournament World Cup, why wouldn't you look to play young players? You know, give them the opportunity. Give them the opportunity, because that's what Germany done a number of years ago, and that's why they've gone on and had success.